Hey guys, what's going on? My name's Lucky and today I am back with my my Formula 1 Monaco prediction. Lots happened since the last race at Spain. If you guys missed it, I did do a review of Spain and my predictions going forth into the season. So a lot's happened and I'll get through all of that to the race weekend. So we had coming out after, Mercedes said that it was neither one of their fault, understandable, but that was a huge thing. Verstappen's got a lot of praise and credit, which fair enough, but I think he's getting a little too much now, in my opinion, because he's a great driver, but I mean he got really lucky and he was in a car that he was able to do that with. And if Ricardo was on the same strategy, I'm sure Ricardo would have beaten him. Not saying that Ricardo is a better driver, I'm just saying that, he did get lucky, Verstappen. The praise has been a little frustrating, but understandable, he's the youngest ever winner and all that, and props to him, he's an amazing driver. So there's been, all of that. Then we had mid-season testing is basically what they call it. And everyone just applied slow upgrades and was like, yeah, they're good. And then Renault have come out with their new engine, which is where they're going to test it. And I guess it's done well enough to where they're putting it in for Monaco for one Red Bull driver and one Renault driver. So it's going to be that the whole situation is very awkward and going to be interesting. Basically, if say Verstappen, so the one Red Bull driver who's getting it is Ricciardo, and the one Renault driver who's getting it is Magnussen, because they're both ahead in the championship on their teammates. So basically, if say Verstappen or Jolie and Palmer blow an engine, because I think this is their second engine, and you only get 5 in the season, they blow an engine this weekend, they're forced to take another old engine, which means they only get 2 of the new. And as I said, the new engines have shown some serious speed. And they obviously want to get it up for Monaco because they believe it's going to do well. They were going to do it in Montreal, but I guess it's that good that it's like they need it done by Monaco. So it's going to be very interesting to see how everyone goes. But yeah, those teams are going to have to be playing careful. But I think it's a good decision to bring this engine a race earlier and give it to the lead driver in the championship, or give him the choice if he wants it or not. But yeah, as I said, it's something that is very interesting towards the rest of the season, because if this engine gives them half a second Red Bull, they will not only be beating Ferrari, they will be damn close to Mercedes. Because if you have a look at qualifying, I believe, if I'm correct, they were only 0.6 off Mercedes Red Bull at Spain. At a track like that, yes, it's chassis are good at this track, but at the same time, it's a very high-speed circuit as well. Half a second puts them fighting for first or second, They're not only going to be, because everyone's like, oh, Red Bull are going to catch Ferrari. Red Bull are at Ferrari, There's been a Red Bull car beating a Ferrari car every race this season. Red Bull are ahead, and they've been challenging. They've always been there, Almost would have had a good chance at winning in China if Ricciardo didn't have his puncture. Red Bull are there, and that's the thing that people need to remember is, like, this is going to beat Ferrari. This engine's going to overtake them. It's just whether it's going to catch Mercedes, And I think it's great. I think it's it's a great idea. I can't get over how good it is. It's gonna really change going into the season for tracks that are half and half, of half high speed, half not. Tracks like Spa, Mercedes are pretty much going to dominate. Maybe Montreal. I'm sure Ferrari's got something up the sleeve for that. Not Montreal. Monza. So they've got something up their sleeve for that. So it's all these tracks. But either way, I think it's great that Red Bull have got it. For other news, there's not that much. I mean, a lot of teams introduced new aero, and some, introduced new engine upgrades and all that, but that's kind of basically it, you know. I don't think there was any other big news over the week. Yeah, so going into this weekend, what does everything mean? So, as I said, Red Bull are going to stand a good chance, because if you have a look here now where I'm going, this hill, yes, in race, it's not an overtaking track, but for qualifying and that, where position matters, that hill is where that new engine's going to perform, you know, getting up there, because that's where you lose speed. The engine can't pull and can't get out of corners. You're going to lose speed through that corner. Not only that, Red Bull has easily the best chassis in the field. You know, they were rivaled last year by Mercedes. Adrian knew he doesn't want that, so he's designed a better chassis. So much so that they have to dial grip out of the chassis because it's too grippy. And you might be like, well, if it's too grippy, doesn't that mean it's good? No, because it pulls the engine down and actually slows the engine down even more, having too much grip. But in saying that, you don't want no grip, because then if you put your foot down, you'll just spin the tyres. So you got to have a good, perfect middle ground. But yeah, Red Bull have got such a good chassis that they have to take it out. That's why their rear ride height is so high. If they put it any lower, too much rear grip. And this track is very kind on the tyres, but we are going to be using the Ultra Softs, so that's going to be interesting. Now apparently they're burnt up very easily in Spain, but Spain is a very high tide deck track, so it's understandable. But in saying that, there's you know, this is designed to bring not 2 or 3 stops to a race, not make it a one-stop race all the time anymore, which is great. Mind you, we have seen a couple of races this year that have been, okay, it's one stop. They probably should have gone a step softer in tyres. Now, at Monaco, they can't really go any lower, but I still feel like this could be a 2 to 3 pit stop race, mainly 2. I think the stretch will be 1. Because the soft tyres here, or the super softs, which are the tyres I want in the game, the red outlined one, they were too hard last year. It's like, well, the ultra. So you might see that, yes, it's 2-stop race, but everyone's going to be going from ultra to soft to ultra, or ultra soft, in all different combos. So it'll be very interesting to see it. And tyre, I found in the game, but I know in real life, tyre you're on can make a huge difference because it's a street circuit. So you want to be very comfortable in your car, push your car to the limits and everything. So that's going to help. The new engine's going to really help Red Bull and Renault at this track, even though they're saying it's not. Qualifying, if you have a decent start, your qualifying position counts, because you just can't pass in this track. It's, as you see, very tight, windy, very hard to get next to a car. Because if you want to pass, you got to get at least next to them. So it's going to be very interesting to watch. It's going to be a very interesting race, because yet again, Hamilton's on a charge. Hamilton wants to get it. He wants to, prove that he's not the driver that he was in the last race, where he took out Rosberg. Rosberg doesn't really care. Rosberg might have made a big deal about it. That's because his closest championship rival, or the only one that he sees that can beat him, took him out. So, but at the end of the day, he's 25 points closer to winning against Hamilton. So why does he really care? It's one less race Hamilton has on him. So Hamilton will, as I keep saying, Hamilton will want to shut this down. Problem is, Monaco tends to be a Nico track. Although I think in 2014 Hamilton did win it, and 2013 Rosberg won it. Although I'm probably wrong, it might be vice versa or anything. Either way, it's going to be interesting. I do feel there'll be a good fight, not just between the Mercedes, between Red Bull and possibly Ferrari. I don't see Ferrari doing too well at this track. I know Vettel has come out and said that he believes he can end Ferrari's Monaco drought. I don't think he can. I think he'll be lucky to get a podium. And with the Mercedes showing unreliability, now I know that they've upgraded and it should give them a little bit more reliability, but they don't have good reliability. Track like this, you need the reliability, which also could hurt Red Bull and Renault. They're running a new engine, so they don't really know how reliable it is. I'll try and not talk about Red Bull or Renault anymore. But that's basically going to be, it's game changing, that engine, if it does what it says. So Ferrari, I feel like we'll do okay. I don't think they'll do too well. Vettel tends to be really good at this track. Whereas, I believe Raikkonen's not bad at it, but I don't think he's that good at this track. It doesn't seem like a track that would fit his driving style. Force India, Williams, they've made a little bit of gains, but this is not a Williams track. It hasn't been for years, and they'll struggle to be in the top 10. Force India, I feel like can have a decent job here. They don't have a half bad chassis this year. So just a few upgrades, and I feel like they can, if their upgrades work, they can definitely do something at this track. Sorry, I'm totally having a blank. Haas, I feel like will have a good race this weekend because their chassis, they got a good chassis, not a great one, good chassis, and they've seemed to get that engine to do what they need it to do, and they are able to get what they want out of it. So I feel like they will not have a bad weekend, but not have a great one. I think they'll be battling for 6th again. Toro Rosso, I can see having a good weekend here. They have a decent chassis, and with their engine, I feel like they can push. I feel like they'll also be battling for top 6. I feel like top 6 will be battled mainly between Haas and Toro Rosso and McLaren, because McLaren's got a decent chassis. They've got some engine upgrades that have improved their car, but not that much, not as much as Renault. And then Sauber and Manor, I believe, will be having a battle. Manor might be able to squeeze a championship point or two. Same with Sauber. So basically, anyone for that 10th place I can't pick them. It's too close. So that's that. I mean, it's going to be a very good race. I feel like you got a lot of junior drivers and cars that do like to slide around in that, and drivers that don't mind throwing their cars around. So we could see a few safety cars and this. And I like safety cars. I know some people are against it, but I think safety cars add an element of change, and that really determines whether a driver can adapt to that. And you have to jump on that change so quickly, otherwise it can affect you so much, and you can lose places. So that's that. My predictions, my top 5. I'll give you my top 5. Sorry. I know I say this a lot, but I am a Ricciardo fan, and I feel like Ricciardo will work some magic. He won't like getting beaten by Verstappen. This new engine can put him a good place in qualifying if they can dial their chassis in right. Because of the style of the track and how tight it is in that, Mercedes will not, I don't feel like will be able to get as much out of their car, because their aero, they'll be lacking in aero. And then not only that, if they get behind a car like Red Bull, if Red Bull get in front of Mercedes at this track, Red Bull will want it. That's plain and simple, because Mercedes doesn't have the aero to pass. The straights aren't that long. They can't really make a challenge. There's not really any. This isn't a Mercedes circuit, this one. They've had a good engine in the past, which has helped. But now, if this engine that Renault can make work, I believe, it'll be Ricciardo. I'll probably go with Rosberg, even though I said Hamilton will. I believe Hamilton will try and beat Rosberg. Rosberg does like his track. It is a very technical track, which is right up Rosberg's sleeve. I think it'll be Hamilton to Verstappen battling Vettel to probably Raikkonen. I think that's going to be my top 6 I'll even give you. But I do have a funny feeling that Ricciardo likes this track. Ricciardo has always been good at this track, and we saw in 2014 when he pushed that car to the limits, he was a paper's width away from the walls and put out a phenomenal lap time. Wasn't enough to get anything first and second, but it was enough to get third. But with the deficit that they had, it didn't look like they had a deficit, and he put everything on the line in that lap, and I feel like he can do it again. That is why I'm playing as Ricciardo, by the way. It's because I do believe he's going to be the big winner. So that's that. Going on to the season, if Red Bull can win, it will definitely worry Mercedes. Ferrari just going to really... I think this weekend's going to be Ferrari getting shown that their true speed and what they really have, and that Red Bull isn't their threat. They need to catch up to them. They've been like, we're going to get Mercedes, and that's fine. They need to keep that nature up, and they really do need to go. But they need to acknowledge that Red Bull is a threat, and, Red Bull are making these gains to get Mercedes. So that is... those are those teams. I mean, the rest of the teams, depending on how they go, will change. But kind of wherever they finish will be whatever. I do want to say that the rest of this video, I'm actually going to talk about... I know I've talked a lot about it, but I'm actually going to talk about the difference between the new Renault engine and the old one. Because not a lot of people understand that what's different in it and why they're getting such a huge power curve and all of that. So... I hope you guys did enjoy that one. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to see more and everything. And as I said, I'm going to be talking about this new engine and the main upgrades, and then that'll be it. So, if you guys didn't know, as I said, Renault, you guys knew and probably now know that Renault, yes, brought their new engine to Monaco. Now, why is this engine so different? They have changed a little bit of what goes on in the combustion engine itself, but it's mainly the turbo, and the way that whole turbo system works is very different. It's more compact, so everything happens a lot faster and harder. But why this has happened now, and why didn't they run this engine at the start of the season, is because they didn't really have the it's not they didn't have the know-how. They were always developing this engine. This was the engine that they wanted to run this year, but they didn't have the time. They weren't going to be able to get it ready, and they weren't seeing gains yet, but they knew that they would be able to get it. They just had to piece it all together. So what they did was they ran basically end of last year's engine this year with a few upgrades from this new engine. Like the engine upgrades itself, some of the ones that they could put on it, and then a couple of turbo changes. But that was kind of it. And that engine wasn't getting any upgrades. That was it. They weren't touching it, nothing. It was everyone works on this engine, because this is the engine that they knew they could get at least half a second out of. The way that they worked on it and fixed this engine, they see where they went wrong, but they couldn't correct it in time and everything. So that's why they had to bring it out now. Now, it was also the making of the engine and the getting it certified and everything and ready for the race. That's why there was a huge push to get this engine done for this race, because it was no one really thought that it would be done by now, but they saw such a gain that they went, well, we can get 2 engines done. So we'll give one to Red Bull and we'll take one for ourselves as per contract to Red Bull. So that's how that went. So as I said, this engine, basically, it's better on its low end. It's better at getting out of the corners. Its top speed is better because it can get out of the corners that much quicker. And that's where they're saving half a second, And that's going to really play into well with Red Bull's chassis. Not really Renault. Renault doesn't have the greatest of chassis. It has a really good, engine. And their drivers are chassis. Their drivers like good chassis setups, not engines, which is the problem that they're having with theirs. So that is basically that engine altogether. As I said, there will be plenty of updates. There's already scheduled for plenty of updates. Like Montreal, there's another upgrade for this engine, and a few races after, there's another engine upgrade. So this is the engine that they really want to use and that they will use for years to come. And this is also a turbo, which is the other huge factor. And now, as I said, if anyone blows an engine this weekend, it could be dire straits, because they're either going to have to go to their old engine, their first engine, or they'll have to go to a new old engine. So they have to be very careful on what they do this weekend. And so that's why I think that it'll be a little bit of a saving, and they won't really turn the engine up, and we won't see the full pace this weekend, because they won't want to show the full pace. But if it's enough of a gain that Ricciardo can get somewhat in qualifying and get out and do well, then that will be good. Now, I also forgot to mention before, I am going to talk about contracts, because we are starting to get into that a little bit more. Now, I'm only going to do that briefly, and then that'll be it. So, I had no more news on Hamilton getting out of his contract earlier. No more news on Rosberg's alleged signed contract that he has already signed for another year, which is also interesting, because it's, from what we've heard, it's only 1 year. So it could be that if Hamilton leaves, they'll put a new driver in this for next year, and then they'll get rid of Rosberg. Now you might be like, well, why would they get rid of Rosberg? They don't. One of the two drivers has to go, and the reason why is Spain. We saw the two drivers crash into each other because Hamilton got a little too angry that Rosberg beat him, and Rosberg didn't want Hamilton to beat him because he's done it so much in the past, so he covered him off there aggressively. Now, I'm saying it's both their faults. I'm not saying it's one or the other. I'm saying that they both did it to each other because it was each other. If it was any other driver, it wouldn't have gone down like that. And that is why it is very interesting about, what's going on next year, because not only that, Verstappen's move up to the team was also interesting, because I have said since the start of the season, Kvyat's either leaving at the end of the season, or he'll stay for one more season because Ricciardo will leave. Now, I didn't see the foreshadow that Verstappen will get promoted and Kvyat will get demoted. And basically that's going to do, if Ricciardo leaves, Verstappen has been in this team long enough to run the team, they'll bring up Sainz and get rid of Kvyat because his contract expires. The only reason Kvyat's at Toro Rosso is because his contract is still there and they don't want to pay, $50 million to get rid of him. So, buy his contract out. So what they're doing is they put him there. So Ricciardo is going to have a spot. I feel like they're eyeing up Ricciardo because Ricciardo's got that nature and is not very aggressive with his teammates, Him and Vettel had some spats, but, they still work together, that you can promote them easily, Ricciardo's also a huge promotional man because he's the guy with always a smile, always in a great attitude, And you're really getting an untapped audience of the Australians like me and a bunch of other people because we don't have another Australian driver. German, there's like 5 German drivers. There's 5 of every other driver. Oh, not really, but there's a few of every other drivers. So it's good to get someone calm and wants to work on a car like Ricciardo. Not only that though, there is, I don't know how to say, something Wellman or Whirlin. He drives a Man at the moment. He's also a Mercedes protégé, but it's kind of like it's one season too early. He kind of needs another season, but in a better team, before he can leave, or before he can go into Mercedes. So, that might be, if they can get Ricciardo in their car for next season, get rid of Rosberg at the end of the season, because Rosberg's going to be like, well, Hamilton's left, I own the team now. Get rid of Rosberg and put in this junior driver that they've trained up. That could be the strategy that they go for. Now, there are other strategies of, there are other talks that Raikkonen will be leaving. Now, I know Raikkonen's been doing well, and I know Raikkonen's been outperforming Vettel. I still believe Raikkonen will be out of the sport at the end of the year because they'll want a junior driver in there now. And Vettel won't want Raikkonen there anymore because Raikkonen's beating him. And Vettel is very much too much control over that team. So I do feel like that our Ferrari seat's going to be up. So I feel like this season we could have one of the best contract seasons in a long time, because it seems like all these drivers, because you have Sergio Perez, you have Nico Hulkenberg, two drivers who are extremely quick that, you know, everyone knows. You have Valtteri Bottas. You'll have a Williams seat probably getting opened, because there's talks that Button might go there, so one of the two drivers might be leaving. Massa might retire, and so that could lead to that, which then leaves a McLaren seat open. But then McLaren probably put their junior driver in. I can't remember his name. So there's all these seats. Like every team's almost going to have a new seat open at the end of the year if one person leaves. You know, if one person or two people leave, that's game changer to Formula One for next year. But yeah, I mean, that's that. Just to let you guys know about the race, like I always do. I know this was a pretty boring race. As I said, I played as Ricardo in a Red Bull, which is very easier on this track, especially in this game. I am on Legendary difficulty, it's just that easy. So yeah, I do win. Yeah, that's really it. I mean, I won by quite a while, and I was actually cruising for half the race. But yeah, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, smash that like button, subscribe to see more. I will do a review on, I don't know what time the race is, so either Monday or Tuesday. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, yeah, as I said, smash that like button. Sorry, I'm just used to saying that at the end of my video. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time.
It's a race win for Daniel Ricciardo, and one that I think he'll remember for a long, long time. Congratulations to him and the Red Bull team.